Okay, this may be of very little interest to some and of no interest to most, but for the one or two of you out there that might have a slight interest in it, I'm going to do this video. And I'll start by saying this is one of my favorite books in the whole wide world. And as you can see, I tell you what, I have just about worn it out. It's fallen apart. I really should order another one, but oh, it still works. So it's called The Reference Manual of Woody Plant Propagation from Seed to Tissue Culture. And what this book is, or does, is tell you just about any woody plant that you can think of. Here's bunchberry, dogwood, giant dogwood, flowering dogwood, things called, oh, let's see, here's a Pacific serviceberry. I mean, you name it. It will tell you what is the best way to propagate that plant. In other words, what's the best way to make new ones? If it's from seed or from cuttings, some plants it's the best. It'll usually tell you seed or cuttings and tell you the percentage you take on both ways that it's done, and it'll tell you, you know, if it got 80% or 2%. And so you can decide whether you need to take seed from a certain plant and stratify it and then plant it in the spring, or if you want to take a cutting this time of year. And for instance, here I've got this one marked. This will just tell you, for instance, here's a honeysuckle, and it tells you all about the percentages you can expect by trying to propagate with seed, and then cuttings. And under cuttings it says softwood June, July, and August, root with ease under mist. Okay, and it tells you to use the double leaf bud cutting and using 3,000 parts per million IBA talc. Well, IBA talc is this. It's rooting hormone is what it is. It's a rooting powder. So, and a nodal cutting, it talks about a nodal cutting, and I will show you what that is. I'm going to try to do this with one hand, but I have a cutting here of a honeysuckle. And the node is this part right, his little guy right here, where the leaves pop out, where the growing starts. And there's another node right there, and there's another tiny little node right there, and the leaves are just starting to take off. So a nodal cutting would be to cut right through that node, and that's where all the energy stored, where that new growth is going to take off from. And then of course a two-leaf cutting means to just clip it right above these the next two leaves up. And then I'm going to do this one-handed. Believe it or not, I can do this. You dip the cutting in this rooting hormone, tap off the excess, and you always make a little hole in your planting medium so you don't knock the talc off as you push it in. You don't want to just push it in, or you'll clean off the rooting, all the rooting hormone off of the cutting. So you always make a little hole and then put this down in there, and then just pinch the soil up around it. And what they mean by doing this, I'll go ahead and put that in the dirt since I've got it all set up. I believe this is 1,000 parts per million, and I believe this is 3. So this is a little more potent rooting powder, and that's what I've been using. And under mist means exactly this. If you'll watch here, I'm going to turn this on, and you'll see the water begin to turn into mist coming out of that. And I'm going to hold my camera up here so I don't get wet. And that's throwing a real fine mist out over those little cuttings that I have. And what is making this operate is a neat little switch with this little paddle screen. And when that screen gets damp enough, it collects enough moisture to make it heavy enough to fall, it turns the electric valve off and shuts down the misters. Isn't that clever? And then when they're going to go ahead and run for a little bit because of all the water in the pipe above it. But you can see this one starting to shut down. That one's shutting down. And when the moisture dries out on this evaporates off and dries out enough to lift for the paddle. That's got a little adjustable weight on the end of it, so you can fine tune it. And when the water evaporates off, the paddle starts to lift up and turns the misters back on. And that just throws a very fine mist on my cuttings and keeps them damp all the time. So there you have it. How to do honeysuckle cuttings with rooting hormone under a mist system. Wasn't that exciting? We'll go ahead and turn the camera off and stick this little guy in the dirt since I've already got him cut and ready to go. I'm trying a couple of different mediums here. I have some vermiculite perlite mix and also just have some potting mix because that's what I had. Don't know how well that will work. I probably should get some sterile seed planting mix and try some of that too. I need to read up on that, and it's all in this book right here. Okay, see ya. Hope you weren't too bored. Thanks for watching.